I bid you all good morning, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. It is I, Mike Martins. Thanks for joining me, guys, for another episode of the channel. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being part of the channel. Guys, don't forget, trends in the housing market tonight. We'll be talking about the housing markets, trends in the housing market, the new financial future. Don't forget to tune into this one tonight. It's going to be really good. Set your reminders here. And Mike in the Night this Saturday is going to be consumer spending rebound. Well, I got a few articles. We're going to be talking about small business struggles and rebuilding in the Commonwealth. So here it is, guys. So there it is, guys. So let's take a look at this here. Now, we got a lot of bad news coming out of Canada to start off. So in Canada, things are looking pretty grim. 50% of small businesses can't make June rent without more support. CFIB, government support, basically. Now, Canada is going to be I think it's going to be Canada and Australia are going to be tied for first place, followed by New Zealand, then the UK, and then the United States for struggling with small businesses, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why. Because Canada and Australia are so heavily taxed, you guys have no idea. When we see a house, a beautiful home with a pool in the United States go for a $190,000 4-bedroom, everyone takes a and looks at it, because a house in a major city in Australia or something, or Canada, with that kind of house, you're looking over $2 to $3 million. So anyways, let's take a look here, guys, on what's happening. So 50% of small businesses can't make June rent without more aid. This is coming out of Canada. Article scan, please. Here we go. Woo! Okay, half of Canadian small business owners say they won't make next month's rent payment without additional help, according to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Guys, that's half. Now, people need to understand, this is private sector. Private sector funds the public sector. So these private jobs that people, mom and pops, basically, not the corporations, because the corporations always find a way to loopholes not to pay taxes. But the mom and pops are the ones that are struggling the most. And they're the ones that fund the government jobs. So without these jobs, you can't fund the government jobs unless Canada starts bringing in more wealthy investors and competing harder for more money to come on shore. 50% of respondents to the survey conducted over the weekend said that their very survival depends on more rent relief, with the response of being as high as 80% in the arts and recreation sector. The closure will get to June 1st. The more stressful things are getting, the more business failures we'll see. The CFIB Executive Vice President, Laura, in a release, we're begging governments to move quickly and create additional help outside the CECRA, Canadian Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance. The CECRA program, introduced last month by Prime Minister JT, amidst to lower rent by 75%, facing financial hardship due to COVID for April, May, and June. So a lot of what's happening is a lot of landlords are not really on the books when it comes to collecting rent, or they have it set up in a way where they have it, but it's going into a sole proprietor, so it's not really a corporation. So a lot of landlords are opting out or not taking this position because they don't want to get, let's say, found out, so to say. But some say that's enough. The CFIB is calling for the government to increase the forgivable portion of Canada Emergency Business Account, CEBA, to cover the CECRA shortfall. 67% of survey respondents agree that more of the CEBA should be forgivable. So they want basically people to borrow the money or use the money and forgive a bit of it because people just can't afford to stay in business. So I never took none of these business grants or none of these business loans or none of this business stimulus. I do own a small business. It is taking a hit, but I've saved for my rainy day. I've prepared for something like this, so I'm not too worried, right? It's the businesses that applied for this. I know several businesses that have gotten this relief, okay, and they're open every day, but they're saying they're closed and they're taking a hit. So I see why the government's very reluctant on that too, because there's a lot of losers that ruin it for everybody else. So government set to slow down to provide rent relief. The survey results come a day after Ontario Premier Doug Ford delivered a bold warning to commercial landlords. Nothing drives me more crazy than greedy landlords taking advantage of people and small business owners that are trying to keep their head above water, Ford said during a news conference on Tuesday. These big landlords want to take advantage of small little companies and people that are struggling. I'm going to come down on them like they've never seen before. That's good. I hope here in BC they start coming down on companies that are open full-time, basically, and that are collecting the stimulus or collecting this and just basically running their business as normal, right? Now, so here it is. This is coming from England, and this is actually a big deal, this article, because it actually states that 1 in 10 small businesses say they can't reopen safely. This is from today. The problem is with this, I see where they're coming with this, is that the cramped quarters or the small quarters or social distancing will make it very hard for their business to operate by the guidelines. So that's one problem. So in UK, 10% of small businesses are unable to reopen at all under government's new pandemic safety guidelines. So there it is. The British Chamber of Commerce, the BCC, said on Wednesday the survey of 600 of its members found 1 in 10 say they would be unable to reopen safely. So that's going to be hard. Look how small this building is, right? You know, but the governments are quick to collect that property tax and raise the property tax without even looking at the businesses and what's happening. COVID closed curtains for small businesses. Again, this is coming from BBC from the UK. A lot of small businesses are seeing this fall in business. But here's the deal. In London, it's been happening a lot more quicker, or it's been happening in the background for a lot longer than people could anticipate or could figure. Because in London, they have more food banks than they do Subway sandwich restaurants and McDonald's. So they have more struggling. More people are struggling there. So that's the deal. Okay, so let's move on to this one. This one's a very important one. This is coming out of the United States, and this is some good news out of the United States. That article scan, please. Let's set this up. Small business layoffs may have hit bottom, says study. For small businesses, the worst of the COVID-related layoffs may be over, as some firms take steps towards rehiring workers, according to data of payroll provider Gusto. We are no longer in this free fall, said Gusto co-founder. So there it is. There's some good news coming out of the United States. After sparking more than 1,000%, so what is job losses, but the worst ever they have seen, at least for now, after sparking more than 1,000% in March, layoffs among the small businesses leveled off last month, according to exclusive data compiled by human resources provider Gusto. So there is some good news that small businesses may come back, and a lot of them are going to start rehiring. Hopefully, I'm looking at the positive side of this. I'm a business owner myself. We want to start to see people getting back to work. We want to see people starting their lives again. We want, especially the small businesses. They're putting their necks on the line, basically keeping our government jobs, keeping our government employees paid, basically, our small businesses. And that's what they're doing, right? As states reopen, it's race against the clock for small businesses to pay bills and stay solvent. So this is going to be the biggest challenge of all time for small businesses. So here it is. Solvency is a big concern now that states are reopening and businesses are under pressure to see if they can survive the new environment. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has called on Congress to move forward on stimulus spending, saying that the Fed alone cannot prevent avoidable insolvencies. Businesses in hard-hit sectors like restaurants and hotels are falling behind on their bills, signaling they could close at the breaking point. So this is not good for Moody Analytics there. Timing is crucial here. The virus is variable. We think that we have it contained and it's moving in the right direction. We don't know what will happen in 2 or 3 months from now if it's moving the wrong direction. So here it is. Breaking point. The U.S. Travel Association on Tuesday said its industry has now lost more than half That's where I got half from earlier. Of its 15.8 million jobs, and the industry's unemployment rate is about 51%. The industry group said the PPP program has helped travel business, but it said more stimulative measures are needed. So there is a race to keep these small businesses open. They need to do what they can. Here it is. So this is 53% of small businesses expect to reopen soon. So this is a good sign. And I think this is coming from Sydney, Australia. Is this an Australian article? It's not telling me here where this is, but I think it's coming from Australia. It doesn't even mention. Let's see if it mentions here. Pulling together as a community. So it says here, more than half the businesses believe they will be reopened. 53% of small business owners think of reopening takes place within a month the lockdown restrictions get lifted. A quarter of small businesses also estimate will be back in revenue employment levels this month's time. So yeah, this is from Australia, and it looks like based on 360,000 response from people, small businesses, the report is centered on several recent surveys that analyze thoughts of a small business in the current situation. So small business reopening after. So this is coming from our friends down under. No, that's from England. Aha, England. I don't know what got mixed in there. So Covey, small businesses can't afford to take advantage of New Zealand's goodwill. So this is some good news here where people are paying extra for haircuts. So they're paying, like, hear this out, okay, guys? They're paying extra for a haircut. On their own accord. Not because the hairdresser is asking for more. It's because the guy says, well, you had a lot more hair cut than usual, so here's an extra $20, $30 on top of that. So people are being honest, and they're, despite having, financial issues that they've gone through, they're actually going back and actually saving small businesses in New Zealand. So, but here it is. Buddy was charged $20 for the same service. The stylist charged full price, $20, and then he ended up paying $89. And he basically told her that I would have paid that much over the last few months regardless, so here's the extra money. So this is really nice article coming out of Australia where people are New Zealand, where they're actually showing some goodwill to small businesses. That's a good one. Airbnb New Zealand bookings leap, heading towards pre-virus levels. Again, lots of good news coming out of New Zealand, where it looks like New Zealand is taking steps forward to reopen the economy and spend money. And this one's coming out of Australia. And basically it goes into here. Strap for cash. Large majority in Australia will not reopen small businesses. And there are disagreements on predictions where things are going to head with this. So Australia is taking a massive hit right now. But also, and on a good note, let's get some good notes out here, guys. We can't all be gloom and doom. Australia, bars and cafes and Sydney cautiously reopen. So, guys, here it is. Patrons, cautiously returned as lockdown restrictions were eased on Friday. Parts of Australia began observing lockdown measures from March 23rd as the number of COVID cases started increasing. So there it is. Even as bars in Sydney have opened its doors, much of its population are still working from home. So it's going to take time. Millions of Australians have lost their jobs or seen hours cut. And the country is headed for its first recession in almost 3 decades. No, it's going to go into a depression because people are affordability levels for shelter, whether you own or rent, is beyond. The Australians basically sold their countries out to the highest bidder, and with their housing, of course, and now they can't afford anything anymore because everything's out of reach, right? How small businesses are surviving the downturn and how they are preparing for life after lockdown eases. So here it is, guys. Gyms in Canterbury in Australia reopening, and restaurants, floral shops. What is this? Fashion. All kinds of stuff. Beauty products. So hopefully people get back online, and not online, but back online with their small companies. I really, really, really like that article I read about in New Zealand, how basically small businesses are goodwill of people, and people are taking advantage of the goodwill. Small businesses can't afford to take advantage of New Zealand's goodwill. So there's a lot of good people out there really going out of their way to take care of locals in their area. And in New Zealand, 53% of small businesses expected to reopen soon. So that's that there, guys. So let's hopefully things will start turning around, and we're going to start, hopefully, I hope to see the end of this damn face mask. I'm sick and tired of seeing people driving in their car with face masks, people everywhere with face masks. I stopped wearing my face mask 2 weeks ago. I do wear gloves when I go to the gas station because of the pumps. I'm not too sure. And I always wash and sanitize anyway. So I think if people just use proper etiquette and proper stuff, I think this problem, we can nip this in the bud and start moving forward towards something more prosperous. Guys, let me know. This is a great time to set your reminders, guys, to this Mike in the Night, Trends in the Housing Market tonight. It's actually Wednesday tonight. Oh my God, guys, Trends in the Housing Market tonight, the financial future. Let's tune into that tonight, guys. We'll have call-ins. And guys, don't forget, Mike in the Night, consumer spending rebound. Well, we're seeing consumer spending rebounding now. Let's talk about it on Saturday and see what's going to happen and if where things are going to be headed, right? We are definitely in a recession, so we need to start working together. Banks need to start raising interest rates, start putting the economies back on autopilot, stop printing money, and start getting out there and doing the right thing. Thanks for watching, guys, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you.